Sometimes sleep is really hard to come by. We get into bed, we have all good intentions of closing our eyes and drifting off, but we've got a lot on our mind. And sometimes it's just incessant, goes over and over and over in our brains, and we can't turn it off. So that is one reason why I created these bedtime stories, so that you can just press play, close your eyes, take a trip to another world for a while and forget about your worries and your stresses and just enjoy a bedtime story. So I hope that this next story brings you some peace and comfort. And yeah, comment below. I'd love to know where you're listening from and let me know how your week was. I would love to create a beautiful community here on this channel and to get to know my listeners a little bit better. For me, we had a beautiful week. It is the heart of fall right now in Ontario, Canada, and the colors are spectacular. So went for a beautiful walk yesterday, and it's nice to get it into nature and just sort of be reminded of all the things that are there for us outside of what our brain creates. So enjoy this story, and I will chat with you all soon. Please remember to subscribe and like and comment. It all helps. All right, guys, have a beautiful sleep, and I'll chat with you soon. As you settle into your favorite cozy spot, let the gentle rhythm of this story guide you into a restful sleep. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and let go of the day's worries. Here in the safety of this moment, it's okay if you don't reach the end of the tale. My only wish is you drift away into sweet, comforting dreams before the story concludes. Sleep well, and let the calm embrace of drift-away tales carry you into the night. This story is called The Windkeeper's Journey. It's a tale where a young boy named Oliver embarks on a thrilling adventure where he must discover the true strength within himself. Are you ready? Okay, let's get started. In a quiet village surrounded by rolling hills and ancient woods, there lived a curious little boy named Oliver. He was a dreamer, often lost in his own thoughts, with a full heart of wonder and a mind brimming with questions. Every day after school, while the other children played in the town square, Oliver would wander off into the woods, exploring every nook and cranny, eager to uncover its secrets. One evening, as the sun began to dip low in the sky, painting the world in shades of amber and gold, Oliver found himself deep within the heart of the forest. The trees there were tall and wise, their branches forming a protective canopy overhead. The air was cool and filled with the scent of pine and earth. The only sounds were the rustling of leaves and the occasional call of a distant owl. As Oliver ventured further, he noticed a narrow path he had never seen before. It was barely visible, hidden beneath a thick blanket of fallen leaves. Intrigued, he decided to follow it, his small feet making soft crunching sounds as he walked. The path wound its way through the trees, twisting and turning until finally it led him to a small clearing. In the center of the clearing was a pond. The water was so still and clear that it mirrored the sky above, reflecting the soft hues of twilight and the first stars that began to twinkle in the evening sky. The pond was surrounded by tall reeds and delicate wildflowers, their petals glowing softly in the fading light. It was a place of quiet beauty, untouched by time. Oliver was captivated. He had never seen anything so peaceful, so perfect. The surface of the pond was like glass, unbroken and serene, and he felt as if he had stumbled upon something magical, something meant only for him. Without thinking, he kicked off his shoes and waded into the water, feeling the coolness against his skin. The water was deeper than it appeared, and soon he found himself swimming, the gentle ripples spreading outwards as he moved. As he floated on his back, gazing up at the darkening sky, something caught his eye. There, beneath the surface of the water, was a soft, shimmering light. It was faint, like the glow of a distant lantern, but it drew him in, filling him with an irresistible urge to dive down and see what it was. Taking a deep breath, Oliver plunged beneath the surface, the cool water refreshing against his skin, and the light grew brighter as he swam deeper, illuminating the pond in a soft glow. It was beautiful, like a star that had fallen from the heavens and settled in the depths of the water. Just as he reached out to touch it, Oliver felt a strange sensation, as if the water around him had suddenly vanished. He blinked, confused, and then realized he was no longer in the pond. He was standing in a vast open field, the grass beneath his feet soft and warm. The sky above was a deep velvety blue, filled with more stars than he could ever imagine. The air was alive with the sound of crickets and the distant hum of some unseen creatures. Oliver spun around, trying to make sense of what had just happened. The pond was gone. The forest was gone. Everything was different. Yet, despite the strangeness of it all, he didn't feel afraid. Instead, he felt a thrill of excitement, as if he had stepped into one of the stories his grandmother used to tell him about far-off lands and hidden realms. In the distance, he could see the soft glow of lights, like those from a village or a small town. Intrigued, he began to walk towards them, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had no idea where he was or what awaited him, but he knew one thing for certain. This was the beginning of an adventure unlike any other. As Oliver made his way across the field, the grass whispering against his legs, he couldn't help but smile. He had discovered a portal to a new world, hidden within the quiet pond in the heart of the forest. And as he ventured further into the unknown, he felt a sense of wonder and possibility, as if the world was full of secrets just waiting to be uncovered. And so, with the stars as his guide and the soft glow of distant lights leading the way, Oliver took his first steps into a new and magical world, unaware of the extraordinary journey that lay ahead. Oliver walked across the open field, the grass cool beneath his bare feet. The lights in the distance grew brighter, revealing themselves as he drew closer. They were not flickering flames of lanterns or the steady glow of electric bulbs, but something far more wondrous. The lights floated above the ground, suspended in the air like tiny glowing orbs, each one pulsing with a soft, otherworldly light. As he approached, Oliver realized he had stumbled upon a village unlike any he had ever seen. The homes were nestled within the trunks of enormous trees, their roots spreading wide to create natural doorways and windows. The trees themselves were alive with light, their bark glowing with the same energy that filled the air. The whole village seemed to hum with quiet, welcoming magic. Curiosity tingled through Oliver as he stepped into the village. He marveled at the delicate bridges made of woven vines that connected the tree houses, and at the gentle streams of water that flowed through the streets, sparkling like liquid silver. The air was filled with the scent of something sweet and floral, a fragrance that reminded him of summer evenings back home. As he wandered deeper into the village, he noticed that the floating orbs of light were not merely decorations. They were guiding him, gently nudging him toward the heart of the village. Oliver followed their lead, feeling a growing sense of anticipation. Finally, the path opened into a wide clearing, and there, in the center, was the source of the lights. A massive tree stood tall and proud, its branches spreading wide like a protective umbrella over the village. It was even larger than the other trees, and its bark glowed with a warm golden light. Nestled among its branches were countless glowing orbs, gently swaying like fruit ready to be picked. But it was what lay beneath the tree that caught Oliver's attention. A small group of villagers had gathered there, and at their center was a stone pedestal, upon which sat an object that gleamed with an intense, brilliant light. It was a crystal about the size of Oliver's fist, and it seemed to pulse with energy, its light shifting from soft blue to vibrant gold. One of the villagers, an elderly man with long silver beard and kind eyes, noticed Oliver and beckoned him closer. "Welcome, young traveler," the man said in a voice as gentle as the breeze. "You've arrived at a special time. We've just uncovered something extraordinary." Oliver approached the group, his heart pounding with excitement. The villagers parted to allow him through, and he stood before the pedestal, staring at the crystal in awe. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, radiating a warmth that felt both comforting and powerful. "What is it?" Oliver asked, unable to tear his eyes away from the glowing crystal. The elder smiled, his eyes twinkling with wisdom. "This is the Heartstone, the source of our village's light and magic. It has been hidden within the roots of the great tree for centuries, waiting to be found by someone with a pure heart and a brave spirit." Oliver felt honored. But why now? Why has it appeared? The elder's expression grew serious. "The Heartstone is more than just a source of light. It's a key to the balance of our world. It is drawn to those who are pure of heart and will have the best intentions while using its power. You're about to go on an adventure." The villagers nodded in agreement, their faces hopeful. Oliver felt a surge of determination. "What do I need to do?" he asked, his voice steady. The elder placed a gentle hand on Oliver's shoulder. "The Heartstone has chosen you, young one. You must carry it with you on your journey to find a very special staff. The staff and stone work together for good. The stone will lead you to the staff." Oliver's mind raced with questions. He reached out and touched the Heartstone, feeling its warmth spread through his fingers. And as he lifted it from the pedestal, the light intensified, casting long shadows across the clearing and illuminating the faces of the villagers with a soft golden glow. Oliver's heart swelled with a mixture of excitement and anticipation. He slipped the Heartstone into a small pouch he carried and tightened the drawstring. The light dimmed, but he could still feel its warmth against his chest, a comforting presence as he prepared to embark on his journey. As the villagers wished him well and returned to their homes, Oliver looked up at the great tree one last time. The floating orbs of light danced around its branches as if celebrating the new beginning of a new chapter in their world's story. With the Heartstone as his guide, Oliver turned away from the village and began to walk back across the field, the path ahead illuminated by the faint glow from the pouch at his side. The night was quiet, but the air hummed with the promise of adventure. And so, with the stars twinkling overhead and the Heartstone's light burning bright, Oliver took his first steps into the unknown, ready to discover the mysteries of this new world. The forest, though dense, was alive with energy. Tiny fireflies danced in the air like floating embers. As he walked, the Heartstone began to pulse more rapidly, as if urging him onward, pulling him towards something just beyond the next hill. He emerged from the thick trees to find himself at the base of a series of rolling hills. These weren't ordinary hills, they were the Whispering Hills, a place spoken of in hushed tones by the villagers of the Lantern Village. The hills were said to be alive, filled with ancient secrets and voices carried on the wind. As Oliver stood there, he could hear faint murmurs in the air, like a chorus of voices speaking just out of reach. At the top of the tallest hill, something caught his eye. It was a flash of silver, quick and bright, like a bolt of lightning. And then there it was again, glinting in the sunlight. The Heartstone pulsed with excitement as if it recognized the light. Without hesitation, Oliver began to climb the hill, his feet moving quickly over the soft grass. The higher he climbed, the louder the whispers became, urging him onward. He reached the top, breathless but exhilarated, and there at the peak he saw it, a large circular stone platform embedded in the ground, surrounded by ancient ruins that glowed faintly with a blue light. At the center of the platform was the source of the silver flash, a tall, slender staff made of a gleaming metal, its tip crowned with a crystalline orb that shimmered with the same energy as the Heartstone. Oliver's heart raced. He had never imagined that he would find something so magical. The staff seemed to hum with power, its light dancing in the air like a living thing. As he approached, the Heartstone's light flared brighter, as if in recognition of the staff's magic. But before Oliver could reach out and touch it, the ground beneath him trembled, and the platform began to shift. The ruins around the edge glowed brighter, and suddenly the entire hilltop began to move. The platform was rising, lifting Oliver and the staff high into the air. He stumbled back in surprise, but the Heartstone's light surrounded him, keeping him steady as the platform ascended. Within moments, the platform had risen so high that Oliver could see the entire landscape spread out before him. The vast forest, the distant Lantern Village, and the endless sky above. The wind whipped through his hair as the platform came to a halt, suspended in midair far above the Whispering Hills. Oliver's awe was quickly replaced by a sense of urgency as he realized he wasn't alone. From the edge of the platform, figures began to emerge, swift, graceful beings with shimmering wings and flowing robes. They were the Wind Guardians, the ancient protectors of the Whispering Hills. Their eyes glowing with the same blue light as the ruins, they circled the platform, their movements synchronized, creating a vortex of wind that made the platform spin gently in the air. One of the guardians, a tall figure with wings that shimmered like silver, stepped forward. "You have awakened the wind staff," the guardian said, his voice echoing with the power of the wind itself. "It has been centuries since one has come who is worthy of its power. But to claim it, you must first prove yourself." Oliver nodded, his excitement bubbling up inside him. He could feel the Heartstone's energy surging in response to the challenge. "What must I do?" he asked, his voice steady despite the thrill of the moment. The guardian gestured to the edge of the platform, where the other guardians had formed a wide circle. "You must race the wind," the guardian said, a hint of a smile in his voice. "If you can reach the staff before the wind catches you, the wind staff will be yours to command." Oliver's heart pounded. A race through the air high above the world with only the Heartstone's light to guide him. It would be the most thrilling challenge he had ever faced. He glanced at the staff, its light beckoning him forward, and then at the circle of guardians, their wings beating rhythmically as they prepared to start the race. Without a moment's hesitation, Oliver dashed towards the staff. The platform beneath him tilted, and the wind whipped around him, but the Heartstone's light held him steady, guiding his steps as he ran. The guardians moved swiftly, their wings creating powerful gusts of wind that threatened to knock him off course. But Oliver kept his eyes on the staff, his determination burning bright. The wind roared in his ears, pushing against him with all its might, but Oliver pressed on, his feet barely touching the ground as he raced across the platform. The Heartstone pulsed in time with his heartbeat, urging him forward, giving him strength. The staff was so close now, its light merging with the Heartstone's, creating a dazzling display of colors that filled the sky. Just as the wind seemed about to overwhelm him, Oliver leaped forward, his hand outstretched. The moment his fingers brushed the staff, the wind ceased, and the platform stabilized. The guardians halted their circling, their wings folded gracefully behind them, as they watched Oliver grasp the wind staff. The moment he held it in his hand, a surge of power flowed through him. The staff responded to his touch, its crystalline orb glowing brightly, resonating with the energy of the Heartstone. Oliver felt as if he were connected to the very air itself, able to command the wind with a mere thought. The silver-winged guardian stepped forward again, a look of approval in his eyes. "You have proven yourself worthy," the guardian said. "The wind staff is now yours. With it, you can summon the winds, control the skies, protect the magic of this world." Oliver couldn't believe it. He had not only protected the Heartstone, but had also gained a powerful ally in the wind staff. As he stood there on the platform high above the Whispering Hills, he felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and excitement for the journey that lay ahead. The guardians bowed their heads in respect before taking to the sky, their wings carrying them away into the clouds. The platform slowly descended back to the ground, returning Oliver to the summit of the tallest hill. He looked out over the landscape, the wind staff in one hand and the Heartstone glowing softly in the other. He marveled at this magical experience, knowing that this isn't something his friends have ever experienced. He couldn't wait to tell them. As Oliver continued to journey back toward the Lantern Village, the Heartstone glowing warmly in his pocket and the windstaff resting firmly in his hand, he couldn't help but feel a deep connection to the world around him. The skies above were clear, the air crisp and filled with the scent of pine and wildflowers, and the trees seemed to sway gently, as if they too were in tune with the magic that now flowed through him. But as he reached the edge of the Whispering Hills, a new sensation began to stir in the air. The Heartstone pulsed softly, not in warning, but with a sense of anticipation. The windstaff hummed gently in his hand, its crystalline orb beginning to glow once more. Oliver looked around, his heart quickening with excitement. Something was happening, something wondrous. In the distance, just beyond the hills, he saw it, a magnificent flock of birds, larger and more dazzling than any he had ever seen, soaring gracefully through the sky. Their feathers shimmered in a rainbow of colors, and their wings beat in harmony with one another, creating a melody that echoed across the landscape. These were the sky dancers, legendary creatures said to be the embodiment of the wind itself, rarely seen by mortal eyes. As the flock approached, The air around Oliver seemed to come alive. The wind picked up, swirling gently around him in a playful dance. The sky dancers circled above, their movements elegant and fluid, and Oliver felt a deep connection to them, as if the wind staff had brought them to him. Without thinking, Oliver raised the wind staff high, and as he did, the sky dancers responded. They descended gracefully, forming a wide circle around him, their wings flapping in unison. The wind whipped through the hills, not in a stormy frenzy, but in a joyous, exhilarating rush that made Oliver's heart soar. The sky dancers began to fly in intricate patterns, weaving in and out of the circle of precision and grace. Their feathers shimmered in the sunlight, creating trails of light that filled the sky with a kaleidoscope of colors. It was as if the very air had become a canvas, and the sky dancers were painting a masterpiece of light and movement. Oliver's excitement grew as he realized what was happening. The wind staff had given him the power to command the winds, but now it was offering something even more incredible, a chance to join the sky dancers in their ancient, mystical dance. He felt the wind lift him gently off the ground, his feet leaving the earth as if he were as light as air. The Heartstone pulsed in timing with his heartbeat, its energy flowing through him, making him feel weightless and free. Oliver looked around, his eyes wide with wonder, as the sky dancers beckoned to join him. With a joyful laugh, Oliver took a step into the air, and to his amazement, the wind carried him effortlessly. He moved with the sky dancers, mimicking their movements, spinning and twirling in the air, the wind staff guiding him. The wind wrapped around him like a warm embrace, lifting him higher and higher until he was soaring above the hills, the earth far below. The sky dancers flew alongside him, their wings creating gusts of wind that propelled him forward. Together they danced through the sky, their movements synchronized in perfect harmony. Oliver felt a rush of exhilaration unlike anything he had ever experienced. He was flying, truly flying, riding the currents of the wind, his heart full of joy and wonder. As they flew, the landscape below seemed to transform. The fields and forest became a blur of colors, the rivers and lakes sparkling like jewels in the sunlight. The sky itself seemed to open up, revealing endless possibilities, and Oliver felt a deep sense of freedom, as if he could go anywhere, do anything. The dance reached its peak as the sky dancers began to form a spiral, their movements becoming faster and more intricate. Oliver followed their lead, the wind staff guiding him with ease. The spiral of birds and light rose higher and higher into the sky, the colors blending together in a dazzling display. Then, with a final burst of energy, the sky dancers and Oliver shot upward, breaking through the clouds. And for a moment they hung in the air, suspended in the brilliant blue sky, the world spread out beneath them like a painting. The wind was still, the air filled with a sense of peace and fulfillment. Oliver smiled, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face and the gentle breeze that ruffled his hair. He had never felt so alive, so connected to the world around him. The sky dancers circled him one last time, their wings brushing against him in a gesture of farewell, before they soared off into the distance, their shimmering forms disappearing into the horizon. Slowly the wind began to lower Oliver back to the earth, setting him gently on the soft grass of the whispering hills. The wind staff's glow faded to a gentle shimmer, and the Heartstone's light returned to its calm, steady pulse. Oliver stood there for a moment, taking it all in, the joy of the dance still lingering in his heart. As he made his way back to the Lantern Village, Oliver knew that this adventure had changed him forever. He had discovered the true power of the wind, not as a force of destruction, but as a source of beauty, freedom, and endless possibility. And though his journey had come to an end for now, he knew that the winds would always be with him, guiding him to new heights and new adventures. With a light heart and a peaceful mind, Oliver walked through the forest, the windstaff at his side and the Heartstone glowing softly in his pocket. The sun began to set, casting a warm golden light over the hills, and as the day came to a close, he knew that he was ready for whatever test might follow. As Oliver descended the whispering hills, and as he approached the edge of the forest on his way back to the Lantern Village, he sensed a subtle shift in the air. Yet again, the night sky, which had been clear, began to darken with rolling clouds, dense and heavy. The wind picked up speed, swirling playfully around Oliver, tugging at his cloak and sending leaves spiraling into the air. He felt as though the very elements were preparing him for a final test. Oliver paused, looking up at the sky as the clouds gathered into a swirling vortex above him. He could feel the wind tugging at him, beckoning him forward. The Heartstone pulsed more rapidly, and the windstaff began to hum with power in his hand. He knew this was no ordinary storm. It was a challenge, a trial of skill and courage, one last adventure before his return to the village. With a determined nod, Oliver raised the windstaff, feeling the wind respond to his command. The ground beneath him vibrated with energy as he stepped forward, following the call of the wind. The vortex above him began to descend, forming a massive whirlwind that surrounded him on all sides, lifting him off the ground and into the sky. The wind carried him higher and higher, spinning him gently as the vortex rose into the clouds. Oliver kept his focus, the Heartstone glowing brightly against his chest, providing him with warmth and reassurance. As the wind lifted him into the heart of the storm, he realized the nature of the challenge. It was a test of his ability to control the power of the windstaff and the Heartstone together, to navigate through the swirling chaos without losing himself to the wild energy around him. The wind howled around him, creating a tunnel of spinning air and cloud. The world below was obscured, and the only thing keeping him centered was the steady pulse of the Heartstone and the firm grip on the windstaff. The wind seemed to have a life of its own, pushing and pulling him, testing his resolve. But Oliver was not afraid. He could feel the wind's playful nature, its desire to challenge him, to see if he was truly worthy of the power he now held. Taking a deep breath, Oliver closed his eyes and let the wind guide him. He allowed the Heartstone's light to fill him, calming his mind and sharpening his senses. The wind staff responded to his will, directing the currents around him, transforming the wild vortex into a controlled spiral that lifted him higher into the sky. But as he ascended, the wind became stronger, more turbulent, testing the limits of his control. The air around him crackled with energy, and the vortex spun faster, trying to pull him off course. Oliver tightened his grip on the windstaff, focusing all his energy on keeping the wind in check. He could feel the power of the Heartstone merging with the staff, creating a harmonious flow of energy that connected him to the wind on a deeper level. Suddenly, the vortex shifted, tilting sharply to one side, threatening to throw him into the chaos of the storm. Oliver's heart raced, but he didn't panic. Instead, he called upon the full power of the windstaff, channeling the energy of the Heartstone into it. The staff glowed brightly, and with a sweeping motion, he redirected the wind, stabilizing the vortex and guiding it back into a controlled spiral. The wind responded to his command, the chaotic storm calming as the vortex straightened, and it lifted him even higher. Oliver felt a rush of exhilaration as he realized he was in full control. The storm, now a dance of wind and light, guided by his will. He could feel the wind's excitement, its approval in his skill and courage, but the challenge wasn't over yet. The vortex began to narrow, the wind compressing around him as the clouds thickened, obscuring his vision. The air became dense, and Oliver felt the pressure increasing, the wind trying to force him down. It was a final test, a push to see if he could break through the storm and emerge into the clear sky above. With the windstaff in hand, Oliver pushed back against the pressure, directing the wind upward. The Heartstone glowed with a brilliant light, infusing him with the strength and determination he needed. He focused all his energy on the goal, feeling the wind yield to his command as he urged it to lift him higher, faster, through the thick clouds. The wind roared in his ears, the air around him vibrating with the power as the vortex began to accelerate. The pressure increased, the wind pushing against him with all its might. But Oliver didn't falter. He held the windstaff high as he pushed through the final barrier. And then, with a burst of energy, he broke through the clouds, emerging into a world of dazzling starlight. The sky above was clear, the stars shining down on him as he hovered in the air, the wind now gentle and calm. Below him, the storm dissipated, the clouds parting to reveal the rolling hills and the forest of the land. Oliver took a deep breath, feeling the glow of the moon on his face and the gentle breeze that carried him. He had done it. He had passed the final test, mastering the power of the windstaff and the Heartstone together. The wind around him seemed to sigh in contentment, as if acknowledging this victory. With a smile, Oliver slowly descended back to earth, landing softly on the grass. The world around him peaceful and serene once more, the Heartstone pulsing gently in his pocket, and Oliver knew that he had truly earned its power. As he made his way back to the lantern village, the wind played lightly at his back, a constant reminder of the bond he now shared with the elements. The journey had been long and challenging, but it had also been filled with wonder and excitement and growth. And as the village came into view, Oliver couldn't wait to share his adventures with the villagers. As Oliver approached Lantern Village, the familiar sights and sounds brought a warm sense of belonging. The gentle breeze that had accompanied him on his journey played softly through the trees, rustling the leaves in a melody that seemed to welcome him home. The moon and stars casting a comforting glow over the village, and the smell of evening fires mingled with the scent of fresh bread filled his senses. The villagers were gathering in the central square as they did each evening, sharing stories and enjoying the moonlight. As Oliver walked down the cobblestone path leading to the square, the first to notice him was little Maybelle, who had been playing with her friends near the well. "Oliver's back!" she squealed with delight, her voice ringing out like a bell. The joyful cry spread quickly through the square, and soon everyone was turning to see him. There were smiles and waves, and before long, a small crowd had gathered, eager to hear about his adventure. The elders, who had always looked at Oliver with a mix of affection and curiosity, were especially keen to learn about his journey. "Oliver, my boy," called Elder Rowan, the eldest and wisest of the village council, "come, tell us what you have seen and done. We have all been curious about your journey and what you have learned." The villagers made way for him, and Oliver felt a flush of pride as he looked around at the familiar faces. He stepped into the center of the square and began to tell his story. "It was an incredible journey, filled with challenges and wonders," he said, his voice steady and calm. "The Heartstone led me to an ancient artifact called the Windstaff." A murmur of awe rippled through the crowd. Many of the villagers had heard tales of the Windstaff, but few believed such relics truly existed. Oliver could see the curiosity and excitement in their eyes, and it filled him with joy to share his experience. "I encountered many things along the way," Oliver continued, his voice growing more confident. "I met the guardians of the hills, creatures of pure light and energy, who tested my courage and my heart. They taught me that true strength comes not from the power, but from kindness and patience and the willingness to listen to the world around us. He paused, glancing at the windstaff. The wind is not something to be commanded or controlled with force. It's a living, breathing part of our world, something to be understood and respected. When I learned to work with it rather than against it, I found that the wind was eager to help, to guide, and to protect. The villagers listened intently, their faces reflecting the peace and wisdom in Oliver's words. Some nodded in agreement, while others exchanged thoughtful glances, considering the deeper meaning of his experience. On my way back, Oliver went on, I faced a final challenge, a storm like no other. It was a test, not of power, but of trust. The wind asked me to trust in its guidance, to let go of my fears and doubts, and to work with it to overcome the obstacle. And when I did, I found myself soaring above the clouds, free and unhindered, carried by the wind itself. Elder Rowan smiled, his eyes twinkling with pride. You have learned much, Oliver, more than many learn in a lifetime. The Heartstone and Windstaff have chosen well in finding their guardian. Oliver felt a surge of warmth at the elder's words. Thank you, Elder Rowan, he said, bowing his head slightly. But I think the most important thing I learned is that we are all connected, each of us to each other, and all of us to the world around us. The wind, the earth, the sky, they are all part of the same great balance, and it is our responsibility to protect that balance, to listen to the world and to each other. The villagers murmured their agreement, moved by Oliver's words. Many of them looked at him with a newfound respect, not just as a boy who had gone on an adventure, but as someone who had returned with wisdom and understanding. It was getting late in the evening, and the villagers began to disperse, returning to their homes with hearts full of hope and gratitude. But before they did, they each took a moment to speak with Oliver, thanking him for his bravery and for sharing his story. You've done us proud, Oliver, said one of the farmers, clapping him on the shoulder. Yes, another villager said, you've reminded us all of the importance of living in harmony with the world around us. Oliver smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had set out on this journey unsure of what he would find, but he had returned with something far more valuable than the Heartstone and the Windstaff. He had gained a deeper understanding of himself, his place in the world, and the importance of the connections that bind us all together. As the last of the villagers left the square, Elder Rowan approached Oliver one final time. You've learned so much, Oliver, and I have no doubt that your journey is only just beginning. The Heartstone and the Windstaff are powerful gifts, but it is your heart and your wisdom that will guide you in using them well. Oliver nodded. Thank you, Elder Rowan. I will do my best to honor the trust that has been placed in me. With that, Oliver turned and made his way home, the windstaff gently humming in his hand and the Heartstone glowing softly in his pocket. The night was calm and the air filled with peaceful sounds of the village settling in for a good night's sleep. The early morning light filtered gently through the curtains of Oliver's room, casting soft golden beams across the wooden floor. The world outside was quiet, still wrapped in the peaceful embrace of dawn. Birds chirped softly outside his window, their songs a gentle prelude to the day ahead. Oliver stirred in his bed, slowly emerging from a deep and restful sleep. His mind was filled with the vivid memories of his adventure, the discovery of the Heartstone and the Windstaff, the sky dancers, and the exhilarating challenge of the storm. Every detail felt so real, so tangible, that for a moment, as he lay there with his eyes closed, he believed he was still in the midst of that wondrous journey. But as his consciousness fully returned, the realization hit him like a cold breeze. It had all been a dream. The glow of the Heartstone and the hum of the Windstaff, the feeling of soaring through the skies, all of it was just a product of his imagination. Oliver's heart sank as he realized it was just a dream. The adventure had been so extraordinary, so life-changing, that the thought of being nothing more than a dream filled him with a profound sense of loss. He opened his eyes and stared up at the ceiling, the familiar beams of his room coming into focus. The warmth of his bed and the comforting smells of home surrounded him, yet they brought no comfort. Oliver had never felt so disappointed, so reluctant to leave the world of dreams behind. For a few long moments, he lay there in silence, trying to hold on to the fading fragments of the dream. He could still feel the wind against his face, hear the gentle whispers of the sky dancers, and see the brilliant light of the Heartstone. But each memory slipped away like sand through his fingers, leaving him with nothing but the ordinary reality of his room. Finally, with a heavy sigh, Oliver sat up in bed. The room was just as he had left it the night before, the small desk cluttered with books and papers, the chair draped with his clothes, and his boots sitting neatly by the door. The world outside was waking up, and soon the town would be bustling with activity. But for now, the house was still quiet, and Oliver felt an overwhelming sense of emptiness. He swung his legs over the side of the bed, his bare feet touching the cool wooden floor. As he did, a strange sensation tingled in the back of his mind. A faint but unmistakable hum, like the one he had felt when he first held the windstaff. He froze, his breath catching in his throat. It couldn't be. Oliver looked down, his heart pounding, and there beneath his bed, a soft, pulsating light glowed from the shadows. He leaned down slowly, hardly daring to believe what he was seeing. His fingers brushed against something smooth and cool, a familiar sensation that sent a thrill of excitement through him. He pulled the objects out from under the bed and gasped. There in his hands were the Heartstone and the windstaff, glowing softly in the dim morning light. The Heartstone's light was as warm and comforting as he remembered, and the windstaff hummed gently, its crystalline orb shimmering with energy. Oliver's heart raced with a mix of disbelief and joy. He wasn't dreaming. The adventure, the challenges, the discoveries, it had all been real. The Heartstone and the windstaff were here in his room, as solid and real as anything else in the world. Tears of relief and happiness welled up in his eyes as he realized what this meant. The adventure wasn't over. The wind had brought him back to his town, but it had left him with these gifts, these powerful relics, as a reminder that his journey was only just beginning. He held the Heartstone close, feeling its warmth spread through him, filling the emptiness he had felt moments before. The windstaff responded to his touch, its glow brightening as if in recognition. Oliver smiled, a wide, joyful grin that lit up his face. All the lessons he had learned, all the experience he had gained, they were real, and they would guide him in the days to come. He wasn't just a boy who had dreamed of an adventure. He was the guardian of the Heartstone and the windstaff, a protector of the balance between the world and the elements. Oliver stood up, holding the relics close, and looked out the window at the town below. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting long shadows and painting the sky with hues of pink and orange. The wind stirred gently, rustling the leaves in the trees and carrying with it the promise of new adventures. With a renewed sense of purpose, Oliver knew that his journey was far from over. The world was wide and filled with mysteries yet to be discovered, and he was ready to face them. The Heartstone and windstaff were his companions, his guides in the great adventure that awaited him.